you so much for stopping by. This morning is the 27th of June 2020, and I wanted to go over some predictions and use a little interdisciplinary study using a variety of educational facts and also a little bit of philosophical or scriptural thoughts. Now, generally speaking, I'm going to do some educated predictions. Now, when you do statistics, sometimes you do what's called predictive analysis. So in a sense, this is like a intuitive, logical analysis of seemingly unrelated confluences of events. And I'm coming to you from the United States of America. No matter where you are, you're on the planet Earth, and we're here together through the technology of the fourth industrial revolution, and we're on the cusp of it right now. So, what's been going on? Let's scooch this over a little to give you a better look there. First of all, there are sages and intellectuals who can channel ideas and thoughts way ahead of their time. They talk about things like having a horseless carriage. And people say, oh, they're crazy, a horseless carriage. And then you have people like the Luddites that are saying, no, we're not going to move forward with this revolution. It's not in the Bible. For example, there are people that live in a way that they are stuck back in time in many ways. There's primitive people all around the world, and here in America, we have people that are homeless, living filthy on the streets due to different bad luck throughout their life, getting down in the dumps, hitting bottom. And you have people who intentionally live in a way that says, no, we will not have electricity. Electricity causes cancer, electromagnetic frequencies, yada yada. It's not in the Bible. So there's always going to be people. It's a free country in the United States. They're allowed to live the way they want, and they're actually exempt from taxes due to their religion, I believe. Now, where is my worksheet here? Okay, so what was I going to say? I was going to say that today I wanted to share with you some current events, some news, and how I'm seeing the fourth industrial revolution unfold. Now, I found a lovely PowerPoint or keynote on LinkedIn, and I'm putting all these links below for you, including the sources of the graphics that I'm using. This particular one was from a blog article from a university in the United States, and it talks about the book, the predicting book from the 1800s written by Ingersoll Lockwood. He had a series of books for his children, and he said the last president, he had this one particular book, The Last President, and you can borrow these books. The other one was Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. The other one was, it's kind of like The Wizard of Oz or something. It's fantasy science fiction, predictive analysis, and it sounded somewhat outlandish for the time. They didn't even have electricity in homes when this book was written. There was no electricity hardly at all. They usually had gas lighting in their house. If they were wealthy, they had gas lighting. Otherwise, they had like little lamps they bring in. They heated with, actually though the steam engine had been around, so they had some advanced technologies. It was beginning. But anyway, so they have the adventures of the little Baron Trump here. Travels on adventures. And his wonderful dog Bulger. And so there's lovely illustrations, and what does this have to do with what's going on today? Well, in a sense, the book is predicting the future. And on the book, The Last President, if you go over here and you search in the book, there's a little search bar over here. I like archive.org because they have some wonderful features for navigating the books. And they have feeds from other places like the Library of Congress. So what I do is I go in here and I search something like November 3rd. Does anybody know what November 3rd is this year? If you guessed the presidential election of the United States, you're right. And in the book, it takes place discussing November 3rd. Okay. The day after the election, let's try this, day after election. I think in here I saw that, I remember that. So, okay, this is going to be hard. Maybe they don't have it scanned that well. Oh, maybe it's just for the page. Yeah, it's probably just for the page and not the whole document. To search the whole document, look, that was a terrible night. Here, let's read this real quick. I'm telling you, it says this in here. It's just that I was searching the wrong way. I haven't used this site in a while, so you'll have to forgive me. All right, so let's see. Let's read it together. Here it is on the first page. Do you see it? That was a terrible night for the great city of New York. The night of Tuesday, November 3rd, 1896. Okay, so the year's off. The city staggered under the blow like a huge ocean liner, which plunges full speed with terrific crash into a mighty iceberg and recoils, shattered and trembling like an aspen. The people were gathered, light-hearted and confident, at the evening meal, when the news burst upon them. It was like a thunderbolt out of the azure sky. Altgett holds Illinois hard and fast in the Democratic line. This elects Bryan President of the United States. Strange to say, the people in the upper portion of the city made no movement to rush out of their houses and collect in the public squares. Although the night was clear and beautiful, they sat as if paralyzed with a nameless dread. And when they conversed, it was with bated breath and throbbing hearts. In less than half an hour, mounted police dashed through the streets calling out, "Keep within your houses, close your doors, and barricade them. The entire east side of the state is in an uproar. Mobs of vast size are organizing the lead of the anarchists and the socialists and threaten to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged and oppressed them for so many years. Keep within your doors. Extinguish out all lights." Well, you can read the rest of the book if you want. But this particular book is about the last president. And it predicts that a really upsetting election after November 3rd happens. That the capital of the United States is bombed. that mayhem ensues and the country is disrupted. Now, if you know anything about history, a lot of times history repeats itself. We've had what's called the Gilded Age in the past, and this is about the time when the book was written. Okay? And the economy had a huge depression that you don't hear about. And it was either people were really rich or really poor. And, they had like the Roaring Twenties. And then after the Roaring Twenties, um, that was right. So during this time in history, oh man, I've been at this hotel, the Breakers Resort. I think this is the Breakers in West Palm Beach. Oh, never mind. Anyway, it says the Breakers, a Gilded Age mansion in Newport. Excuse me. I thought this was the Breakers Resort. It's something different. It looks similar. But anyway, this is in Newport, Rhode Island. Didn't mean to get off on the side. I will show you Breakers Resort. Hold on. It's a really nice place. See? They have, like, you drive up, and right in here there's the lobby doors. And it's really a top-notch place. I would recommend it if you want to have a nice stay. They do conventions and things like that there. All right, so let me back up. Anyhow, so what's happening with the economy? Well, the economy right now, there's signs everywhere that we're in the cusp of the fourth industrial revolution, and I'm saying that, being forewarned is being forearmed. Be ready. Look at the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and threats. We are going through a revolution. So success is where preparation and opportunity meet. And I am predicting that you should be prepared because I care about each and every one of you, believe it or not. I'm a very compassionate, altruistic person. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to put any ads on this video. I'm doing this free. And the reason partly also is because of YouTube censorship. I am not allowed to freely express myself and get compensated in any way according to YouTube. So they discourage, without completely censoring, people. And recently in May, Trump signed an executive order which is supposed to prevent online censorship. I don't know how effective it's going to be because, a lot of times they'll create these laws, they have a wonderful intent, they have a wonderful idea, but there's a lot of unintended consequences. Take, for example, the child support laws. Those laws make people that are dying pay money, or people that are incarcerated pay money. And the debt keeps racking up with interest, and the localities get money. And it's a very, the law sometimes has unintended consequences, okay? So I haven't really studied this law. I'm just going to tell you he's been spitting out a bunch of executive orders, and here's another one he just signed yesterday. If you want to get a federal job now, if you know somebody, you're more apt to get employed even if you're not qualified, because they're taking away the standards, the meritocracy standards, the merits, the formal education. And they're saying, well, if someone says you have experience, and you just have a GED, you can get this federal job now, which before the standards were higher for entry. So without a college degree, you used to have a barrier to entry. Now you don't. Now, as I said, there are a number of links here. So what does this mean, that new laws are being passed? Well, you have a revolution going on based on technology, right? The slide share we could go through, but I think in the interest of time, I'm not going to really go through it, but I will take you over to it real quick and we can skim it. Okay, so this is a slide share from, you can go to LinkedIn, I got the link below, and it talks about how it's here, right? So if you look at this, the revolution is expected to impact all disciplines, industries, and economies, and in some ways is an extension of the computerization of the third industrial revolution, the digital revolution. So again, if you want to get more in-depth on this, on what is going on for most of the world, and then there's some suggestions for preparing for it. Now, this is in no way my work or research. This is someone else, and I do believe they might want to do advising, and that's why they put that up there. So anyhow, let's go back to our predictions. So what I want to predict, and there was another law he signed yesterday, and I'm trying to remember what it was. Let's go over to the White House website real quick, and let's go to what he recently did. Okay. So this is the law that he recently passed, and this is for federal jobs. I have noticed in the private sector and in the local sector where I live that they have changed the pay grade to a lower pay grade for jobs simply like substitute teaching. They used to have it where they would give priority to people with college degrees to substitute teach, and if you had a higher degree, they'd pay you more. Now what they did locally, and this is before Trump did this, obviously he did this yesterday. In my area, like 2 years ago, they made it so teachers did not have to be educated substitute teachers. All they needed was a high school diploma to substitute teach, and they pay the same amount to every single person no matter how much education they get. So it used to be like they'd get $75 a day if they were a high school graduate. They would get $100 if they had a bachelor's degree, and they would get $120 if they had a master's degree. Now everybody gets $90. So they flattened the curve on the pay. They reduced their paperwork, because before, if you had a degree, they wanted all your transcripts. Now they don't have to look through the degrees. So basically they streamlined it. So what does this do to the people that have student loan debt and they can't get a job, and they do credit checks to see if you're making timely payments in order for you to get employed? Is there an unintended consequence to this law that's going to make it, this is just for federal jobs, but I'm telling you there's an industry trend that they're following. And it started with people saying a college degree is not valuable, you can't get a job. Why can't you get a job? Well, because in 2009 the economy tanked and record numbers of people were unemployed. They cannot count all the homeless people. We have a huge problem with homeless people. We want to have houses occupied. We want to have banks and commerce going. They've lightened up the restrictions for buying a home, buying real estate. The commercial real estate industry is about to crash. Now, what else is going to crash? Okay, the stock market's starting to crash. I'm telling you what's crashing next, okay? I'm telling you that you have an opportunity to invest and prepare by facing the truth. We are going through a revolution of insurmountable consequences. What is happening is there's a paradigm shift. And college degrees are still going to be important. And they're going to be a ticket. But they're going to hire people without degrees that they can push around, and they're going to pay less money. They're going to push them around, and because there's going to be so many unemployed people, they're going to rotate them. So they're going to be in and out of poverty at a classy job. Except there's going to be people in there that are in there due to not what they know, but who they know. So networking is going to be very important going forward. Now, there's also going to be natural disasters of many kinds. And some of the natural disasters are going to be plagues, pestilence, famine, shortages, floods, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and then there's going to be man-made disasters, pollution, carelessness, spread of disease, overconsumption, slaughtering of animals for environment, an environment for perceived gain. Now, I want you to look at the book, The Dreaded Comparison, if you can. And I am going to say that there is a guy out there named Earthling Ed. He calls himself Earthling Ed. And he has a YouTube channel. And he educates people. Okay? Now, I want to tell you that you have to be very careful when you go plant-based, because if you eat plant-based food can be junk food just like anything else, and people, it's not a panacea, okay? You've got to get the right minerals and nutrients in the right balance. So anyway, this book is very upsetting, but what we're going through is we're going through a period where there are patterns that happen in nature and in life, and you can almost predictively, intuitively seeing the pattern happening again. And so, in a sense, these predictive analysis, science fictions, they come true. You know, the time travel, the horseless carriage. They used to say, oh, that's crazy. And even Leonardo da Vinci talked about flying. In the here, let me just fix this. Hold on, Da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci was he was a illegitimate child. I used to call him illegitimate because his mother wasn't married to the father. And he was a genius. And he died very poor in his time, but he was way ahead of his time. He could predict the future. He predicted that we would be able to get in an airplane and fly like a bird. People thought he was crazy, but his art was so wonderful that he got commissioned by nobles to paint and things like that. But if you look through his papers that were preserved, this man was a true genius. Now, he had a formal education. His father took him from his mother when he was 9 or something, but he was allowed to stay with his mother till he was 9. But, so, I'm telling you that these predictions, these patterns, are intuited and somewhat scientific, and they're based on, see, Leonardo da Vinci was a scientist, okay? A scientist for his time. So was Descartes, the great philosophers. Wait a minute. Hold on. I don't know why that popped up. Let's go quickly to this link. I don't know. I want to put this in a way that's not going to upset people too much, but what you can think about is, even when there's famine somewhere and people dying somewhere, there are other people that are in a very cushioned, wonderful place. And if you're prepared, you can be one of those persons that's seeing stuff crumbling around you, yet you got enough food to eat, you've got electricity, you've got housing, and so this is the time travel type of photograph. And so let's take a look at Stanford, okay? Now, Stanford has a wonderful website where they have a, here, I've been having some issues with my mouse and my laptop. Okay, so let's go over here. I'll talk about the dreaded comparison of slavery and animal slavery and bondage and cheapening of life some other time. But so scientific revolutions happen, and it's a philosophical idea. So you've got these ancient philosophers, these wise people of the past, and one of them was Thomas Kuhn, who discussed the patterns of the structures in the past. He analyzed them empirically, and he said scientific revolution from Copernicus to Newton fits the attractive Enlightenment picture of the transition from feudalism to modernity, a claim that's also contested. The putative revolutions in mature scientists, relativity, quantum mechanics, challenge the Enlightenment vision of permanent rational methodological standards. Now, if you look into the future, if you get in a time machine and you go forward, and people will say, well, you know, the poor are always going to be with us. You're always going to have your masses of uneducated people, or people that choose to live in a way that is behind the times. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, right? Now, you might have the economy and the stock market on your mind, but I'm kind of trying to give you a big picture look at what's going on, because I know I've looked at some of the things in the news and I have gotten really triggered. I was like, okay, does Trump realize that when he signs this federal executive order that his daughter wants him to sign, that lets people get jobs working as professionals and not have the merits, yet they spin it in a way saying meritocracy, when in fact meritocracy implies formal education and that you are proving yourself, you're jumping through the hoops. But instead they're saying, well, let's go to a more artsy, craftsy, intuitive, well, they say they have the experience. They say on their resume that they've done this before. Think about Kim Kardashian. Kim Kardashian has a lot of money, right? And she wants to be a lawyer, but she doesn't want to pay for law school. She doesn't want to go to undergraduate school. And her daddy was a lawyer. So I guess she ought to be able to be a lawyer for the federal government without a law degree and without passing the bar. She can sit up there and be an advisor because, hey, Okay, so maybe I'm sounding a little sarcastic, but this is what I want to say. There is sexism that goes on in the world, and if you think about it, if you get hired because you know someone, because you're in the right circle, what does that say about society? What's happening to society? You have women that sell themselves as sex objects and network and get positions they're not qualified for. You have token people who are placed in office due to diversity quotas, gender quotas, political quotas. What happens to your society? Anyway, I don't mean to be too much of a skeptic. I want to say that you can survive, you can get through this, and that this is going to happen if you're ready, if you prepare. Now, I've got videos on preparedness in here if you want to go watch them. I title them SHTF, some of them. It stands for SHIT hits the fan, okay? It's calamity, okay? Now, I would suggest that you prepare in your own way. And you think about a lot of things. I watched The Prepper Nurse. There's 2 prepper nurses on here. They have some very practical advice on prepping. And this person has meritocracy. They have a college degree. Not the prepper. There's a girl from North Carolina. Maybe this is it. Well, a lot of people are taking her name and they're adding to it. There's a guy here it is. This is the one you're looking for, okay? This one. I'll tell you right now, she is from North Carolina. She's got a lot of good horse sense and she's educated. If you know chemistry, if you know math, if you're educated, if you know how to research, you can offer advice. Now, if you look at the Amish, if you look at ancient Chinese wisdom, if you look at folk wisdom, what you'll find is they don't go to regular industrialized, medical industrialized complex medicines. They have complementary or alternative medicines that they use, and they do praying, which is similar to energy healing or Reiki healing. And so the body is dynamic, and if you're going to prepare, you can use a variety of different methods. And as a health psychologist, what I'm studying is the immune system and the biopsychology that goes on, and these little nuances that medical MDs don't necessarily study so much. So you have different factors going on. So let's get back to the economy. Okay, so you have a confluence of events. Some of it might be brought on by pollution, environmental science, problems that cause when you have polar ice caps melting and fresh water getting dumped into the ocean and over-nutrification, all these other things. It's scientific. You will get varieties of bacteria and viruses that you've never seen the likes of before coming out. And you will get humans being weakened, their immune systems getting weakened by the pollution. If you look in urban areas, when when you have a lot of particulate matter, whether it's a volcanic eruption of fire or pollution, it blocks out some of the sun. Humans are dynamic, okay? We all have an energy field. We need a certain amount uh, of we need sources to help our body maintain homeostasis. If we're not getting enough vitamin D, if we have nutritional deficiencies, if we're breathing in particulate matter, our lungs can't take it, we'll get more infections. It's all connected, and people don't realize how connected we all are and how fragile we can become and be. And this is a delicate balance. And there are unintended consequences to actions to save money. Well, now if we lower the bar for entry, more people can get hired and we can rotate more people. But what's happening with the student loan crisis? What about when they lower the bar to getting a house and they have lots of liar loans and you have record numbers of people being laid off? The banks are going to collapse again unless someone does something. But they're too busy fighting in the United States, the left and the right, to get anything done. In the meantime, you got Trump over here with his daughter advising him. Mrs. Kushner, Ivanka Kushner, is advising him. So here's the things you have in life. You have power, influence, and authority. The three top things. And this is what I learned in Business 101. Power, influence, and authority. Trump has power. He has authority. His daughter has influence. And he's made her an authority and he's empowered her. What's going to happen to our country? Well, what's going to happen to the world? That's the question. And I'm telling you now to be prepared because there is a student loan crisis. There's a bunch of different things that are happening. There's going to be food shortages. There's already problems right now with the spread of a disease. And it's going to continue, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. Now, here's the other law I forgot to mention. There is a revolution going on around the world that's trying to move humanity forward, and it has to do with the dreaded comparison. So I'm going to go back over to the dreaded comparison real quick. Okay, so there's this book that I have. As a matter of fact, I can go right now. It's in my room. I can just, if you hold on a second, I'll grab the book. And we'll look at it. Hang on a minute. I'm back. I got the book in my hand. If you look through this book, it's very upsetting. It has pictures. And it talks about oppression and language. Well, wait a minute. Let's see if we can find it. Archive.org. I want to show you some photographs. And I want you to ponder these things. Because when you're prepping, I want you to get things that are going to keep you healthy and sustain your health. And I want to tell you that animal products can be very unhealthy. Now, if you're starving, maybe you need to do it. Let's see. Let's look at books. Okay, now who wrote this book? Marjorie Spiegel. Okay. Let's take a look. Now, if you want to know something, the Jewish people were slaves at one time. They're not slaves anymore, but they had been marginalized a lot. They were forced to live in the ghettos in Europe, and they were persecuted for their religions. You're going to have persecution in lots of places. Okay, so the dreaded comparison. I'm going to have to... I'm probably spending more time than I had planned. I don't know what's going on with this. Let's go back. Maybe I should just come back another time. For some reason, date published, date archived, date renewed, date added, views. How about creator? It could be that the book is out. They only let you have one copy of each book. Like, they have the digital book online, right? Marjorie Spiegel. But they have a lot of different... Yeah, I don't want to waste your time. You might have important things to do today. I'm really surprised. This used to be more intuitive. I used to be able to just plug stuff in and title. Why isn't it responding? Well, guys, isn't that strange? Now my internet's buffering. It's just spinning. I can't even get there. Isn't that odd? See? It's been doing that. Okay, I guess we'll have to visit this topic another time. There's been a lot of protests lately, Black Lives Matter, and it's about slavery. It's about the subjugation of a certain branch of humanity based on their ethnicity. And essentially what I'm saying is that, animals are sentient beings, and that we do not need to eat them to survive, unless we're in a severe famine or something. And it's hard for your body to digest the animal products. But, everybody's got to do what they got to do. So I've got family members, children that will eat meat all the time and drink dairy. I go buy them organic milk. I'm not going to stop them. You have a choice, okay? Everyone has a choice of what they're going to do. It's not going to kill them, but it may benefit them to try to change their ways. But you can't live in a bubble, and people do what they want, and there is the mainstream, and what the mainstream's doing, and a lot of times sheeple want to follow the mainstream. So go ahead, do that. Do what you want, do what you're comfortable with, but I'm telling you right now, it might sound conspiratorial, but it's really just patterns in nature. The predictive analysis of statistics, or scientific intuitive analysis that's interdisciplinary. And one of the things you can do is you can prepare for this. Now, there's loads of prepping videos out there. They all have different ideas, but what I would say is that society will continue. But there are some things that are beneficial for prepping, and some tools that would be great for prepping. And some of the tools are, believe it or not, having a gun to protect yourself, weapons, right to bear arms. What does that mean? Well, if stuff really falls apart and you've got a supply of things and someone in your neighborhood gets the idea that they want to take your things because they haven't prepped, what are you going to do if it comes down to that? So now, but don't worry, because Trump is in office, right? And Trump is working on things very hard. He's thought of different things. And it's a delicate balance. And he's thinking about student loans, or he's thinking about listening to his daughter and making it so she can hire Kim Kardashian to be the Attorney General of the United States of America without even going to college. No, I'm just kidding. But a lot of people know that Kim Kardashian wants to be a lawyer. This is getting kind of long. But I'm going to have to get off of here. I got work to do. I have to write a paper on inflammation in the brain and mental illness and your innate immune system and your your entire adaptive immune system and all this other crud. Okay, so Kim Kardashian, the lawyer, she is studying to be a lawyer. Oh, I wanted to also quickly let you know that she went on Saturday. She successfully completed her first year of law studies while preparing to release a documentary about her advocacy work for criminal justice reform. You know, I really honestly believe, this is what I believe about Kim. I believe Kim was raised in a way that, you know, O.J. Simpson was a friend of the family. Her dad, you know, I hate to compare women being oppressed and sexualized to slavery, but I don't even think people that are in the middle of this thing, where they're being oppressed, where they're being sexualized, objectified, realize it. As a matter of fact, they might just go along with it and play along with it, but as they get older, they start questioning that idea of being sexualized, objectified. But they want to fit in to society. Now, her dad was an attorney for OJ. Dream Team. And OJ was accused of murdering his wife. And he had a history of domestic violence against the wife. And the argument they had was, well, he was wearing a leather glove, and they found a saturated leather glove that was shrunken from blood on it. And they put a latex glove over his glove, and they said, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. And the moronic jury and the moronic defense, prosecution, did not get up there and say, well, let me get a scientist up here that shows you that if you soak a leather glove in blood, it's going to shrink and shrivel up. Instead, they let it slide. There was no appeal. You can't be tried twice. There's the double jeopardy law. You can't be tried twice for the same crime. Well, long and short of it is, O.J. was from a oppressed area, and there's a cultural thing that's going on. there's a phenomenon, and I'm not going to discuss the phenomenon too much. But we don't operate in a vacuum. And the social norms of the time were such that there's these different role stereotypes. And we are going through a revolution. So I'm just going to jump out of this idea of the fact that Kim Kardashian is finding a way to not have to go to regular law school, get an education. You've got Betsy DeVos up there saying she went to high school. She's got a high school diploma. I don't, she did she study for the LSATs? No, you don't have to. There's a lot of people that are wealthy that wind up being apprentices because they know somebody and they have money. They don't wind up getting a lot of student loan debt. They get richer and richer and richer. But it's very hard even to go through law school and to pass that exam. And so you've got Trump saying, hey, look, they know enough for me. Let's modernize the law to make it easier to let people in, to pay them less money. It's a win-win for everybody. I don't know, what do you think? And I'm not saying that that's his ultimate objective. I'm saying that he's looking for, I'm saying that I'm giving you an example of how there's an unintended consequence that could happen. So what's the worst that could happen, right? So we live in an abundant world. There's more than enough people. There's more than enough fresh air in certain spots. There's more than enough pollution in certain spots. So what are we going to do? We're going to get a cure. There probably will be a cure, and then there'll be a new disease that comes on the horizon. So be prepared. There's always going to be these times when you need to be prepared. But I am predicting right now, due to the changing environment with education, with not what you know, but who you know, and jobs, I would say the student loan debt is the next thing that's going to cause the market to crash. You've got these student loan servicers. And I am telling you right now that it's going to collapse. And right now, this independent intervening cause of the virus is pushing it over the edge. This is unconscionable, the debt that these students are being saddled with. There needs to be an executive order allowing people not to be slaves to this debt and to get on with their life. They did their dues. They studied. They worked. They lived near poverty while they studied. It's like a ball and chain. So anyway, a lot of young people today don't even want to go to college because they're afraid of being saddled with debt like their older brothers and sisters. We're in the fourth industrial revolution. Are you ready? Is this going to be the last president? In the United States of America? I'll tell you, the world economies could wind up collapsing, but I know the United States, is changing its priorities to become more like a third world country. You have third world countries that are rising and they're becoming first rate, like China. Like South Korea used to be third world. now it's all advanced. It's more advanced than the United States. We're being left in the dust. Other places like Romania has better internet than the United States. That's why a lot of hackers come out of Romania. Okay, guys, I got to get running. I hope that you can take some of this away with you. There's plenty of videos out there on prepping. I don't want you to worry. If you're collecting stock, I would really seriously, and I've advised this before, I would think about future stock that is going to be solid. Real estate, I'm sorry to say, and I am a real estate agent, real estate is not a good bet. I would say government bonds, gold, not a good bet. I would say technologies for the future are a good bet. Investment in education is a good bet, but not investment in student loan debt, but actual research. Okay? So I'm being specific because the government will give money for research to certain sectors because we have to lick these things. We have to do more than just have a think tank with a political interest. We have to be unbiased. So we need to look at the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and there's going to be a way forward. And you know, the Space Force. Think about Star Wars. You always have the walkies. Okay, you got Jabba the Hutt. And what's going on is that humanity's moving forward when you look at these works of art that exemplify the future, and you know that the poor are always going to be with us. You know that there's going to be people that fall in a spectrum of mental illness that some might characterize as evil. And but what is it? Is it a borderline personality disorder, narcissism, or is it a sickness? So my prediction is we are going to have an economic collapse in the near future. The elections may be somewhat of a disaster. And Trump is ahead of the game right here with his laws, his executive orders that he's putting in place to stop destruction of historical monuments that represent the dreaded comparison, the oppression of people, things, the old way, the master-slave relationship, and the preserve the traditional or conservative values of stay in your lane, know your place, inequality, nepotism, oligarchism. And I'm sorry I sound a little bit... It's a double-edged sword is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that what's going on is a double-edged sword. This is a serious time, though, and I'm getting serious. I'm not going to joke too much. You got to relieve some of the stress and joke a little bit, and you have different ways of coping. And I find humor a great way to cope, and I also find preparing another way to cope. And doing a comparison, and looking at a SWOT analysis of what we're going to do to bring humanity forward. And this is why I was always behind Andrew Yang. And maybe he'll be there for 2024, but I'm telling you right now that we're in a huge crisis, and there are a number of house of cards that are about to collapse. But this will pass, and if you're prepared, and if you have faith, you can endure till the end, and you can come out on the other side ahead of the game. Love you lots. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.